So how many of you are from outside of Austin? Okay, how many from outside of Texas? Okay, so where are some of you from that are outside of this wonderful state of Texas? Where? St. Louis? Nashville, wow, okay. Where? Oh, Boston, I thought you said Brussels. Oh my gosh, international audience. Well, thanks so much. So this is going to be a very interactive session. So every couple of slides, there's going to be something that says Team Huddle. I'll talk a little bit about the topic, and then I want you to talk at your tables for 2 minutes. You get a 2-minute warning, right? My husband's a football coach. My son was a high school and college football coach. I live and die by football. And I'm not a Dallas fan, although my son is. My son's a huge Dallas fan. When we lived in California, 7 years old, he's reading the Los Angeles Times sports page. And he says, there's this ad for the Mission Viejo Cowboys. I want to play football. We didn't push him, it was his idea. He's played high school, college football, now he's a coach. So I am the worldwide director of our RACE team, which stands for Readiness, Assessment, Certification, and Enablement. And I have an awesome rock star team all over the world. If you don't know who VMware is, we're about $11.8 billion company currently. We have about 31,000 employees all over the globe, and our Southwest region is in Austin, right around the corner. We're going through a whole sales enablement, sales methodology, huge change effort. We've been on the same methodology and using the same selling skills program for over 10 years. Now, I've had 25 years in the industry, 15 years with Microsoft, including running the CPE team in Singapore for an Asia Pacific region for 3 years. And I've never known an IT or a company to use the same sales training, sales methodology for 10 years. So I come in and go, what? What are you doing? So we're going through this whole big project. I'm going to talk about a little bit about that. My team also owns our worldwide sales kickoff that was supposed to be in Las Vegas in March. It's now virtual. That's for about 16,000 sellers. Our virtual kickoff for all our sellers is about 10,000 sellers. That's now going to be on this really cool, innovative platform. They're going to be in a soccer stadium in space. It's going to be this really cool interactive thing, not your average Zoom. Our theme is winning together, because selling is a team sport. You can't sell without good products from the product team. You can't engage with your customers in the right way if you don't have the right data and information from finance that you need. And you can't service customers that you need. So we've aligned our sales enablement very closely to our 3 top sales priorities that came from Raghu, our CEO. One is to make the SaaS transformation. VMware was known for being really good at what we used to do 5-10 years ago. But now we have to make that difficult SaaS transformation and transform our sellers from thinking about selling a perpetual license and doing what I call drive-by selling, which is I sell the product year 1, 2 years later, 6 months before it comes up again to sign, I go out and do drive-by selling. So I sell it and I leave. So we've got to align that about selling as a team forward. We've got a whole strategy around that. So a little bit about me. I said I lived in Asia for 3 years. I've been in this industry for 25 years, worked with all kinds of IT companies of all size, had my own consulting business. I live out in the sticks. I'm in North Dallas. So you take Dallas Parkway till it ends, and you're about 45 minutes from Oklahoma. You drive 5 miles, you take a right, and that's my house. My neighbors are mostly longhorn steers, cows, and horses. I've got 2 kids, Ross and Elkie. One lives in Portland, married to his lovely wife. Elkie lives in Seattle, married to her husband. I have the 3 world's cutest pugs. Roxy, 14, deaf and blind, but as healthy as she can be. Mango, number 2, 4 years old. And then Kiwi is our rescue, who is like having a 2-year-old child in your house. It's Kiwi, no, no, put that down constantly. And we've got an amazing team with great teamwork. I'm a huge Santa fan. I have one of our neighbors' kids counted. I have 228 Santas. From this big to this big. That's just a little about me. So what I'm going to talk about is some of the things you've seen in the news about the Great Resignation, all the things that are going on. The world changed forever 2 years ago, and I've got bad news for you. There is no new normal. There's only the new world of work. So this presentation is about the 4 R's every leader needs to know, especially sales enablement leaders, need to know to thrive in this new world of work. We'll talk about that. The 4 R's stand for, we need to reimagine our customer experiences. The way we sell perpetual licenses is very different from how you sell cloud. Who you engage with is different. It's like who we sell, what we sell, to whom do we sell, and how do we sell is all different in this new world of work. So we have to reimagine, starting with our customer experiences. We have to reshape our leadership. The old command and control leadership didn't work for us. You think it's going to work for millennials and Gen Zs? So we have to rethink how we think about our leaders. And we need to re-energize our people. The Great Resignation is real. People are not leaving for more pay or better benefits. They're leaving for one of three reasons. They have a bad boss. Good employees don't leave bad companies, they leave bad bosses. The second one is they've lost faith in the culture and the vision of the workplace. They no longer believe what management tells them. And finally, it's because they just feel the culture is completely deteriorated in this new world. Half of my team, I've never met in person. We've been trying to have an offsite since January. And my senior VP keeps canceling travel. So my person from Singapore can't come here, my person from the UK. We need to re-energize and we need to reinvent our work processes. And that's what we're doing with our sales enablement project that we're running. So the world changed forever. Right? The world changed forever a couple of years ago when all of a sudden we had the pandemic. We're all working from home. Is anybody going into the office? A few people. Every day or just occasionally? Monday through Friday? Okay. We had the digital explosion, right? When I started in Microsoft in 1998, we were just starting to make the transition into the internet. And that was a tough transition. I remember Bill Gates asking me to write an email to the field telling them we're going to go into the internet. And he thought the culture was going to change because an email came from Bill Gates. It's like, ain't going to happen, dude. Ain't going to happen. We have the multi-dimensional workforce. We have probably 4 generations of workers in the workforce because the baby boomers are staying longer, the Gen Zs are starting to come in, and what they want is more than a paycheck. They want a company whose mission and vision they believe in. They want a workplace that's fun. My last slide is recruiting for VMware. We have thousands of jobs around the world. How'd you like to work for a company that is a value-based company, has amazing leadership, is going in the right direction, and oh, by the way, you get $1,000 every year just to spend on wellness. So this year I spent it on a new bike and my Peloton membership. Next year I could actually spend that $1,000 on a wellness vacation because it's a wellness award. Also unlimited vacation. So here's what's happened to us in our world. We're living in a world of permanent whitewater. I love rowing and rafting. I was on the Singapore American Dragon Boat team, and our women's team never lost a race in 3 years. And I really got into rafting when I was in Washington, the University of Washington, and we lived on the east side, which is where Microsoft headquarters is. And then to get to downtown Seattle, you have to drive across a floating bridge. The bridge floats on the water. Now, I want to tell you, if you're on that bridge and there's a traffic accident, it's only 2 lanes each way, and you got to go to the bathroom, you're in deep kimchi. Really hard to do. And so I got so fascinated by rowing, I started to study it. And people all the time talk about getting people in the boat. We're living in this permanent whitewater, where when you go through rafting, I remember the first time we went rafting in California, we're sitting on the shore of this beautiful river, and the instructor says, when you fall out of the boat. I did my Delta Burke imitation. Excuse me. What do you mean when we fall out of the boat? He says, you will fall out of the boat, but here's what you do. And this is great advice in leading in times of permanent whitewater. Keep your head up, look forward. Don't look back because you'll drown. You'll get overwhelmed by the waves. Keep your head up, look forward, keep your feet up, and kick off the rocks. And when you get to a calm place will come get you. So great advice for leaders as we're going through all this change. Keep your head up, look forward. The new normal is gone. You got to find a new way to lead, a new way to work. And kick your feet off the rocks when you get to a calm place, get through the chaos, move on. So I want you to think about this. This is one of the many team huddle questions I have. Why is culture and employee engagement more important than ever in business today? And what steps are you currently taking in these turbulent times, these permanent whitewater? So I'll give you 2 minutes. I'll ask for some call-out responses, but let's spend some time at your table. Got it? 2 minutes. And this will be fast, and I have a copy of, if people want my slides, they can get them, right? Yeah, you can get all the slides. My slides aren't on the big screen. Why is culture and employee engagement more important than ever? Gallup just recently showed employee engagement as in lowest in history. It wasn't good before, and now it's in the you-know-what tick. So why is it so important? Let's just hear a couple of responses.
You can't swim the chair anymore. Culture really starts from the team leader and being able to build that team out, and because you can't swim the chair and have that mental break.
Yeah.
You really rely on the culture of the company and guest speakers or ERGs or other things to bring that kind of solace to the creativity and
Yeah.
that feel-good moments.
It impacts your creativity, it impacts your productivity. I have these 4 Ps. The way you treat your people is the way they perform with each other and your customers, which directly impacts their productivity, that directly impacts your profitability. 4 Ps. Super simple. Okay, one other one.
I think we hire a tremendous amount of individuals out of college that have never been in the local world before.
Yeah.
So they're trying to learn and pivot in this environment where they're kind of like on an island.
Yeah.
Versus, to your point, being in the office where they can learn and thrive off of other individuals. So connections are more important than ever.
Connections are more important than ever, especially if you're hiring a lot of new college grads or new people into the team. Exactly. Cool, all right? All right, so what we found in the research is that when you have a strong culture, and culture is everything at work. It's what people say, it's what they do, it's how they fit in. How many times do you interview somebody and somebody say, do they fit the culture? It's the rules, the unwritten rules, the symbols, who gets rewarded, who gets recognized, who gets promoted, all that's culture. But if you do it right, it's a 40% increase in your productivity. You can increase your customer satisfaction by 13%. 4 times your revenue. Wouldn't that be nice to say to your CEO? If we do this sales enabled thing right, we're going to get 4 times the higher revenue. And you decrease employee turnover, which has a hard cost to the company. So I talked about what culture is. It's really that perceptions, those patterns, things people do, how it takes to fit in. So I'm going to talk about these 4 R's: reimagine your customer experiences, reshape your leadership, re-energize your workforce, and reinvent your work processes with a lens on sales enablement, sales methodology, sales readiness, right? So think about your company from an inside out. One of the things that we're doing is we're trying to determine if our terminology is going to be customer first, customer centric, or customer obsessed. And what we found is our people in Europe don't like the word obsessed, so we're going to go on the other one. And somebody, one of the times Microsoft named a product Vista, which when we did the research found out to mean pig in Polish. Yeah. So this is a classic example of being a customer-centric versus a company-centric customer. How many people remember the glass tomato ketchup boxes or bottles that have been around for hundreds of years, right? And how did you have to use it? You'd have to take it off, take the cap off, shake it, squeeze it a little bit, jump up and down, stick a knife up it. Somebody at Heinz Ketchup decided to make it upside down and plastic so it's squeezable, right? Something very simple, but it's from the customer's point of view. So what is your ketchup bottle? 1 minute with your team. Think about your organization. In sales enablement, sales methodology, what is your ketchup bottle that you need to reimagine how you're selling to your customers? 1 minute. Somebody said everything. Okay, give me an example of a ketchup bottle. What needs to be turned upside down, reinvented, reimagined, re-energized in your company? What's a ketchup bottle in your company? Selling what? Selling on features versus value. That's a perfect one, right? It's selling the way we used to sell versus thinking about things from the customer's point of view. We want to make our customers the hero of the story, not us. It's not about my big win. It's not about how I won over this customer. It's not about all these things. It's about, did you help your customer win in their business, in their company? I worked with a CEO one time at Microsoft that one of his goals was to be on the cover of CEO magazine. And I will tell you, I did everything I could to get that man on the cover. He was in Australia. Did everything I could to get that man on the cover of CEO magazine, and I did. Because I knew him, I knew his business, I knew what was important to him, and I was able to make him the hero of the story. So this is called our customer infinity loop, right? You can't do anything simple in IT. Can't you just have a straight line? Customer wants to buy, they do some research, they do this. No, this is our infinity loop. So what we did is we remapped our sales process back to how we market our products to customers and make them aware. To once they start to think about buying, what are the questions they go through? What are their challenges? What are the business problems they need to solve? Not sell them another license or even a subscription. We had to think about all the team members that touch that customer and say, selling is a team sport. We had to think about how do we go from the time we start to discover the customer has a problem to how our inside sales talk to them, to how our business partner managers talk to them, because we're a very channel-driven company. What are the things they go through in purchasing and who's involved in the purchasing cycle? Right? Then once they get the product, one of our priorities is being consumption obsessed. Because if I buy 1,000 licenses of Tanzu and I use 100, you want me to renew and subscribe again? I haven't used 900 of what I bought a year ago, 2 years ago. So it's really about how do you think about that? How do our professional services, our customer engagement people engage with them? And then we mapped our buying cycle, the customer's buying cycle, to the sales process. How do we prospect? How do we qualify? How do we validate? How do we solve? How do we close? How do we service and deploy? So thinking of things differently, of providing recommendations based on what the customer needs. So why is customer-centric? I'm going to skip over the team huddle for this one just to save a little bit of time. One of the things we found and why customer centricity is so important is unhappy customers will tell on average in the old word 26 people. Today, they can tell millions in seconds. There was a guy that was very upset with a famous Washington coffee company that has a green logo. You all have cups. And he was so unhappy because they couldn't get something that he wanted that he took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal to talk about how Starbucks was not customer-centric. 91% of your unhappy customers never complain. They just don't buy again, they go someplace else, they do something nice. It's 6 to 7 times more expensive to go find a new customer than keep the ones you've got. And happy customers are going to refer people, they're going to buy more, they're going to up their subscription, and they're going to buy your new products and services. So customer centricity is critical to the business. And the opportunity is huge. If I asked your CEOs or your executive teams, and even people in this room, are you customer-focused, customer-centric? 91% of us say yes. Customers, so not so much. Only 10% of the customers actually agree that your company is customer-centric. And Jeff Bezos wants to be the best customer-centric company on the planet. You know, here's a guy who started with a couple of $1,000s selling books out of his garage. And now is a multi-billionaire. He bought up a newspaper, he's buying up healthcare industries, etc. But one thing they do at, and I've got it on another slide, one thing they do at Amazon is they have a red chair, or they used to have a red chair in the face-to-face days, in every conference room. That red chair belongs to the customer. Before they make a decision, they ask the red chair, what would our customers think? What do our partners think? What do our employees think? And the other thing is, how do you get team alignment from the boardroom to the front room? This is something I did when I had my consulting business. I would work with businesses and say, what if I could get your strategic plan on one page? It was posted in every office, it was given to every employee, and it contained your mission, your vision, your values, your customers, your stakeholders, and your priorities on one page. Because most executives go off to some offsite, they get a big binder that's their strategic plan, and nobody else knows it. So you've got to communicate that down so everybody from the front line to the janitor to the executives all are on the same page. You think that would be valuable for you or your company? Well, just go do it. And Richard, we had the opportunity, this is a funny story about Richard Branson's. So at Microsoft, I ran our worldwide events like I do at VMware. My team runs the worldwide events, I don't. And we had Richard Branson come in at our partner conference one year. And we're negotiating with Richard Branson. I knew he had a sense of humor. But he tells me, he says, I want a private plane. I thought about that. You own an airline, dude. You own an airline. Why do you? Oh, I was just kidding. So anyway, he's a great example. He's an amazingly quiet individual, but he is so thoughtful and so focused on customers and employees. He says, don't take care of your customers first. Take care of your employees first, because they care for your customers. If you don't have good employees, good customers, you're going to have really bad service. It's going to impact your bottom line. Reshape your leadership starting at the top. I want you to think about, just a quick team huddle here, 2 minutes. Think about the leaders who most influenced you in your life. Who were they and what were their characteristics that were great leaders? Just think, 2 minutes. I gave some examples here. Could have been your mom and dad. Could have been Gandhi. Could have been anybody, a teacher, a preacher, anybody in your life. Just kind of 2 minutes of team huddle. Who are the most influential leaders in your life? And most explicitly, their characteristic. What did they do that inspired you? Okay? 2 minutes. Could have been your boss, could have been a coach, could have been your family. came to mind? Who were some of the leaders that came to mind, and what did they do? Who were some of the leaders that came to mind, and what did they do? Yeah, go ahead.
My first boss I had last year, she was very much a big cheerleader for me.
A big cheerleader?
But she also gave the hard truth all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Honest, but was one of my biggest cheerleaders.
And I think sometimes there's a myth that leaders always only share good news and they're upbeat and they're extroverted and they're rah-rah people. That's not true. Some of the best leaders I ever worked with were the biggest introverts ever. If you're an introvert, go on YouTube, search for Susan Cain's video on the power of introversion. It's amazing. Right? We need introverts desperately in this world because many times they have the right answers, but extroverts won't shut up long enough for us to hear it. And I'm an extreme introvert. I'm like way out there. But she gave you good coaching, good feedback, and she also let you know, don't fall off the cliff before you fell off the cliff, right? Let's hear another one.
My dad said, you can never remember a lie, but you can always remember the truth.
Ah, so he taught you to be truthful, be honest, integrity. The two most important characteristics for leaders, according to research, is honesty and integrity. And in today's world, leaders need to be genuine and authentic and say, you know what? COVID has been tough on me and my family too. There's also this myth that we need to be perfect leaders. But when people are too perfect, people don't believe them. And they seem aloof and impossible to get there. Now, I could ask you the other question. Think about the worst leader you ever worked with. And I guarantee you when I asked that question, the person's name came up immediately, their face is right there, and you knew what they wore the day you talked to them, right? So I'm going to do this leadership lesson. Anytime you feel like you're at your wit's end and you're ready to go strangle that person's neck, I want you to remember that leader, what they did, how you felt, how it impacted your productivity. You just kept your head down. Why would you do that to anybody else? Why would you do that to anybody else? There's a difference between leaders and managers, and I love this kind of research. I'm a research geek, I have to apologize for that. When you look up the word leader in the dictionary, it means, and you go down to the Latin root, it means to determine the course of a ship. So the leader is providing guidance and helping people row in that boat as they need it. Manager, the word means hands, hands-on. So managers delegate, they motivate, they give people directions, they tell them what to do, how to do, why to do it. Leaders inspire. They have visions. They empower people. They say the boat's going this way. How are we going to get there? And they empower their people. And it starts with that growth mindset as a leader, making sure that we think about the difference between a fixed mindset of the world is limitless, it's only a certain amount of pie, there's only so much for everybody around. That you inherit a certain set of skills and that people can't grow and develop new skills. We can all develop new skills. They just never may be a strength or something that you find comfortable in doing. A growth mindset says we can all grow. We all have the capabilities. We can also master things once we try and practice them. You know, we look for opportunities to grow and we wake up in results of, if we just work harder and do better, we can make that work. Versus looking for defensiveness and taking it personally. So my leadership model talks about this approach, is that leadership is achieving and sustaining extraordinary results by bringing out the best in others while leveraging the best in you. So it's about results, it's about bringing the best in your team, and it's about leveraging the best in you and being willing to say, I usually, although I did have somebody on my team help proof these slides. I'm not a detail person, right? I'm this big person, visionary, let's go forward and conquer the hill. But I can't read a contract, right? And my slides usually have typos in them. So I usually joke, if you find a typo in my slides, I'll give you a free book. I wrote a book for women leaders. So how can we build a better bridge between business and people? This is a super powerful discussion to have with your leaders as you're changing your sales enablement process, is we gotta think about what's in the middle and the people. They drive business results and strategy. But everything that happens in the middle is about how do we achieve those goals by hiring the right people, by inspiring them, by designing organizations and sales systems that work for them. They can bring their whole self to work every day, and then we diagnose and figure out what we need to fix as we go along. And you can't achieve your business goals and results without having an integrated bridge between results, people, and all those things that fall in. and all those things that fall in. So think about this. Every business problem is a people problem. I'm not blaming people. A lot of times it's bad processes, but who designed those processes? People. It's bad product design. It's bad feature and benefit go-to-marketplace. Who designed those things? People. Right? So it really is, how do we engage and empower our leaders to have those kind of conversations within our organization? How do we help them think about what do we need to do to empower those people? Somebody said one of their values was something about bring your best to work every day. I interviewed a CEO of a small advertising company in Austin. One of their values is bring your magic to work every day. I love the value that was no bullshit. What was that? A company with no bullshit? Open company, no bullshit. So she talks about diversity inclusion in a way of saying, bring your magic to work every day, bring your whole self. And that's the shift we need to make for leaders. So 1 minute at your table, think about one thing you could do to bring talent and people into your thinking of your sales methodology. Just 1 minute. I'm trying to get just in my time. We did start a little late. Okay, what is one thing? Let's hear a couple of what's one thing you could do to connect business results and people in your organization as you're thinking about your sales methodology, your sales enablement? What's one thing? Listen. Okay? You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You think God wanted us to listen twice as much as we talk? I had a sales manager that once told me that if you are in a sales call and you're the only voice you hear is your own, you're talking to yourself. Okay, one more. Listen with understanding. Oh yeah. It's a lot of what we teach applies to our families. At one point, my son, I don't know, he might have been in junior high school at the time, or middle school, whatever they call it nowadays. And he says, Mom, what do you do? Because I left every other week on a plane to go somewhere. My husband was the coach, obviously, so he was the one that went to the teacher conferences. At one point, I showed up at a parent-teacher conference, and they go, who are you? Right. Now, one time, my husband and son were at a football camp. It was trash day. I didn't know what trash day was. So I was never home during the week to do that. But you know, what do you do, Mom? Well, I said, finally, I figured, okay, well, I teach classes to people to play well together, to work well together, to be part of a team, like you do at school, except with big people. Be the leader you wish you had. Be the leader we wish you had. Remember that bad boss. And this is one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes. You know, I've learned that people will forget what you said. I learned that people will forget what you do, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So think about it. Re-energize your people. I'm going to go through these last couple ones quickly. We started a little bit late, so I have a little bit of flexibility. How do we attract, inspire, retain the best talent? It starts with those critical things as I talked about. How you treat your people is how they act with each other, affects the performance, affects your profitability every time. Some simple ways to engage your employees as you're going through this process. We're doing interviews and field surveys about what the field wants. So when we design our new sales methodology, we're about 90% through. When we design it, we implement it. It's built by the field, with the field, for the field. So you can conduct employee surveys and analyze results and then share them with everybody. The worst thing you can do is do an employee survey and never share the results. Assign an executive sponsor for certain key improvement projects you want to make. Assemble a cross-couple team to go fix it. And then share successes and rinse and repeat, and do after another one and after another ones. 7 creative ways to energize your people, right? Do senior leader job sharing. At Disneyland in July in Florida, when it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity, every senior executive works the parking lot in July. So they know what it's like to be there. Reward innovation even when it fails. Host virtual happy hours nowadays. We're doing a whole bunch of those. Host virtual team building events. There's a cool company called Outback Team Building out of Canada. There's these really amazing virtual team building events, even escape rooms and things like trivia and those kind of things. Celebrate rig wins and volunteer to community. And the 5 C's of leadership. Leaders today need courage to do the right thing with the right resources, even when things are not going well or in the face of adversity. That's a great leader. Compassion, generally caring about your people. Clarity, clear, focused expectation, that one-page map. Conviction, to stick with it over the long haul. I'm having a meeting with our senior leadership team in a couple weeks, and I'm going to talk about how, if we're going to make this big, huge change management effort, we need to stick with it through the good, bad, and the ugly. And then communicate 100 times in 100 ways. Reinvent your work processes. So this was a case study from when I worked for Microsoft in Asia. I arrived in Asia and our revenue had been flat for 2 years. Our customer satisfaction, we were the lowest in the whole company. We brought the score down. They invented a metric called NSAT. Because technically when we did our customer survey, we were a -2. So we had more unhappy customers than happy. So we added 100 and we became 98. Think about what you need to do. And we had a new regional vice president, new leadership team. We put in place a simple workout process, basically something he had done. I'm going to show you those 2 things quickly. What happened is our revenue went up. We actually led the world in our revenue. We became #1 in CPE. We went from 98 and eventually from 102 to 165, the highest in the world. Our WHI, which is our Workplace Health Employee Index, was the highest in the world. And we created a repeatable, sustainable process. So we used a combination of 2 things. We used breakthrough teams, and we'd say, what is our current state? Revenue low, low employee engagement, low employment survey. Let's identify and do brainstorming around the problem areas. So no sacred cows were allowed. When we went through the process, we put together small teams in each region. We brought together cross-functional teams, and we said, what needs to be fixed? What's preventing you from selling? What's impacting your customer's face time? We identified the barriers and the roadblocks. We brainstormed solutions. We prioritized our big wins. We identified a sponsor. We had a quick team we assembled. We empowered the team to go fix it, and then we rinse and repeat. It's whether you want to call it Six Sigma or Agile or any of those ones that are out there, it's that simple process. We did the breakthrough teams were generally longer projects, and then the other smaller teams were the smaller projects, because you can do it with both of those. So our new sales methodology, I want to close with it. We're looking at this one end-to-end customer obsessed. Like I said, we're going to change that word to customer first or customer focused. We're mapping out the customer engagement cycle I talked about. One of the biggest problems we're having, because our solutions are so complex, we have a sales executive, account executive, we have 25 different kinds of specialists depending on the product you want to choose. Then we have customer success and we have professional services. So we need to find what we're finding out. We're dropping the baton between one runner and the other, to use the race team from earlier. Right? So I'm the sales executive, I go to hand it off to a specialist, but that specialist isn't ready for the baton to be handed off. So we're actually mapping out roles and responsibilities, who does what at what stage in the sales process. We're aligning our sales process and tools in the flow of the work, and this question came up earlier. So yeah, we will have regular sales training, but we also have a lot of the work, a lot of the sales training tools and resources are in Salesforce.com. They are today, and we'll update them with the new ones. And so what happens is, if I'm a seller and I'm going to go talk and have a compete conversation against Microsoft and AWS, I can't tell you how long it took me to say VMware and not Microsoft. 15 years of programming. Right? And they're in the proof stage of the sales cycle. I can click on an icon in Salesforce.com and get a reference guide. I can click on that stage and I can get a video, a 3 to 5 minute video of a seller like me having that conversation and saying, why VMware? Why us? So all of it's going to be built into a platform. The employees will have an overall platform, which is called LXP, their learning experience. On the bottom is a whole bunch of stuff cobbled together. There's Saba, there's all kinds of things that are below that, but what the sellers see is their learning path or things in the flow of their work. We'll do sales leader, sales reinforcement, and coaching. I will tell you one fact out of the Sales Executive Council. They found when they did research on the difference that a coach as a sales coach has on the impact of the team, they found that on average, if a sales team has a great coach that coaches them through the sales process, that looks at their pipeline and says, Sally, this opportunity's been stuck for 90 days. Are you talking to the right people? Who are the decision makers? Tell me about the customer's business and their coaching. If they have that good coach, their revenue is 9 to 14% higher. And I will tell you at Microsoft, when I presented that data to our senior leadership team, and I said, do you know that our revenue could have been 12% higher, as an example, if we had good sales coaches? So you have to train the coaches first. So we'll train the coaches so they know the things. We'll also train them in what I call the three RM, relationship management. Do they have an account plan, a strategy? Opportunity management, which was pipeline. So for pipeline, do they have the value, volume, velocity they need in the pipeline? And then business management, which is forecasting. And then we'll train the people on the skills. This last one, I'm going to do one quick huddle, is think about what you could do. Who would you get together in a room to help you redesign or improve or highlight or whatever you want to do with your sales methodology, your same process? And just think about one quick win that could be 30 days or less so that you can build on those wins. So just think about one of your work processes you think you'd improve that would increase your customer face time, that would increase your revenue. Just think about one process. And your challenge is to go do that back with your company when we're finished today. Okay, just 1 minute. I'm wrapping up in just a couple. I'm actually ahead of time. We still have time for Q&A. What's one process that you could use this? Form a small team, brainstorm barriers, work out positives and negatives, make it work.
There's 0 questions. Like you've got to.
What's keeping your sellers from being able to sell? One thing. Do you have your one? Okay, remember your one thing, all right? How many people remember the movie City Slickers? Okay, for those who never saw it, it's 3 guys, midlife crisis, they want to regain their whatever they need to regain, and they decide to go to a dude ranch. And they run into Jack Palance, who's this old crotchety cowboy, and the entire time, it's a funny movie, go rent it, go find it. The entire time when they ask him, what's the secret to success? What's the secret to life? He always says there's one thing. At the end of the movie, he dies. They don't know what the one thing is. So then they create City Slickers 2 to find out the one thing was in his hat, right? So one thing, go do one thing that's going to help your sellers sell more, have more customer face time, one barrier you can knock down, form a cross-functional team, use whatever process you want to use. We used a variety of them from Six Sigma, which became way overwhelming, to Agile and all those other kind of things. Put together a small team, have them brainstorm what are the barriers, brainstorm what are the root causes. That's the most important step. Come up with some solutions, try them, test them, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. This is a cadence that we're instituting in terms of our business, like I said, from a business cadence perspective of sales enablement. Relationship management is all, do you have a strategic business account plan with your customers or your territory if you're inside sales? Do you have opportunity management? Like I call it the 3 V's. Is your volume correct? We have a metric that says you have to have 2 times your quota to be able to possibly achieve your quota. Are they the right value? And is it the right volume? So it's velocity. It's value, volume, and velocity. Some fundamentals of change, and I just had a couple words of you can read these. Everything you do and say as a leader matters. You make a trivial joke about that stupid customer, your last 2 years of preaching customer first just went out the door because you made some stupid comment. Practice head, heart, and guts leadership. Manage the business with your head. Manage your people with their heart. And it takes a lot of guts to be successful today. Remember, the only person who likes change is a baby with a wet diaper. Walk the talk and be a role model constantly. Communicate 100 times in 100 ways. If you send out one memo, it ain't going to do any good. You've got to communicate in every way you can imagine. Don't start a culture change unless you're willing to start it, because you will create such skepticism in the organization, you'll never be able to start one again. Celebrate all successes and learn from challenges and setbacks. So when I wrote my book for women leaders, I interviewed Colonel Deb Lewis, who's become a really good friend. You know what an after-action review is, don't you? So anyway, she was one in the first class of women to go to and graduate from West Point.
We're taking that training right now, that's fine.
Yeah, and she literally had not a glass ceiling, she had a concrete bunker. There were no restrooms for the women. The uniforms didn't fit them, everything you can imagine. But what she taught me, and actually went on to 30 years in the service, and she retired a full colonel. Now she lives in Hawaii with her husband, who was also in the military. But she taught me this after-action review. And so this is for you and your teams. When something doesn't go well, ask yourself, what happened? Why did it happen? What will we do differently next time to get a different result? On the other side, when something goes well, what happened? Why did it happen? What will we do again to create a similar or better result? So just something to think about. Now, I heard there were no questions, so let's think about the one thing you're going to do. There's my Jack Palance story. So think about that one thing. I don't want to go to that. We're hiring, we need you. This is my pitch. You want to work for the best IT company on the planet that's transformed the business, it's value-based? So every month, there's not a 3-day holiday. We get an epic, our values are called EPIC 2. Execution, integrity, passion, customers, and community. That's our EPIC values, right? Every month, there's not a 3-day holiday. They give us an EPIC day. You get a 3-day holiday every month. Value-driven company, we've been voted the best place to work in almost every country we're in. Great benefits, fun place to work. Go to working at VMware.com if you're interested, and there's hundreds of jobs up there and all over the world. If you have friends in other countries, we need people. I need somebody on my team in India right now. So anyway, some fun, some thank you, and there were no questions. I guess.